This is Word on the Streets, a podcast about the Buttles and Indian Corridor Improvement Project. This podcast is created by the City of Midland, Michigan, and produced by the MCTV Network.
Hey, welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 of the Word on the Streets podcast. I'm Community Affairs Director Selena Harris with the City of Midland, and joining me today are John Kelley, Project and Contracts Engineer with the Michigan Department of Transportation, and Shaun Bates, Construction Engineer also with MDOT. These two have been knee-deep in planning for the Buttles and Indian construction projects that we'll be seeing coming up in the next few years. Thank you both for being here. So let's start with the big picture. Why are these projects taking place in the Midland community now, and how will they benefit us?
Well, the main thing with this corridor is just the existing age of the pavement, and that the reconstruction was pending no matter what. The concrete roadway was originally constructed in 1963, and typically we lucky we get 50, 60 years out of these things, so it's lived its life. Time to full depth reconstruct. There is a portion on Indian Street that was overlain with an asphalt pavement in 2002, so that section's a little bit different. But what you'll see is, this new design reflects, modern standards, a more non-motorized, multimodal design, and it creates a more attractive gateway. We have some decorative features going in that's not in all projects. We got decorative lights and signals and things that'll be much more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah,
and this is more of a commonplace thing for MDOT to do. It's not just the Midland community that's seeing these kind of improvements, but I take it this is kind of a new standard, a modernization, if you will, of corridors throughout our state.
Yeah, a lot more attention being paid to more multimodal, not just the vehicular traffic.
Yeah. So can you give us a high-level overview of what this construction project will look like? It's going to take place over 3 years, some of it starting now. Give us a high-level look of how this will roll out for our community.
Basically, right now we're having the utility companies doing a lot of relocating the utilities. It is going through MDOT, but it's all being handled by our utility companies. You'll probably see Consumers Energy, a big one out there, but they're taking a lot of the utilities that were above ground aerials, and then they're putting those all underground to make it a lot easier for appearances. It'll make it nicer to look at. Plus, it also helps for storm damage. When you have a lot of aerial utilities, they get damaged during ice storms, snowstorms. Putting them underground helps with that. So, we are working with Consumers and other utility companies to bury all their aerial utilities underground. That's happening this year. Then next year, in 2026, is when MDOT comes in with our contractor. That is currently, the project is out for advertisement. We should hopefully have a contractor. Should hopefully know who the contractor is next Friday. And then they will come in, and then that's when we start doing the roadway work on Buttles Road, and also in 2026, along with Jerome, reconstructing those two roadways. And then they will come in. I said Buttles, my apologies. We're actually putting the traffic onto Buttles as we reconstruct Indian Street and then Jerome. And then in 2027, that's when we'll come in, and then we'll reconstruct Buttles. And then the traffic will also be on Indian Street that year. So, but we are maintaining traffic. Instead of we'll have down to one lane in each direction, along with a center left turn lane. So.
Okay, so 2025, we're seeing the utility burial. 26 will be work on Indian, and
Correct.
27, Indian and Jerome.
Correct.
And 27, we'll see Buttles and Lyon redone. So, of course, these are just plans at this point, right? So as we sit in 2025, this is how we plan to roll this out. Best laid construction plans don't always go as planned. So for now, we'll keep the community up to speed on what goes on and any changes that come along as those construction plans progress. But for now, let's kind of break it down year by year. You talked about some of the utility burials going on in Buttles this year. Aside from the aesthetics, it's going to be a very busy, big visual change for the community. a little bit later, we'll talk about how that really benefits the Buttles redesign. But when you overviewed this timeline a few minutes ago, you said that construction on Buttles will take place in 2027. With the utility burial going on now, we're seeing those sidewalks on the south side of Buttles being taken out. How is that going to affect us for the next 2 years until we can get to the Buttles construction? What will be done so far as sidewalk access once the utility burial is completed?
We will maintain sidewalks with detours where we can, but we have to, under ADA compliancy, ensure that we do have sidewalk access to the residents. So there will be detours. We will have to close down a section of sidewalk to allow us to construct, but we will have detour routes just like we do for vehicle traffic. We also have that also with pedestrian traffic.
So will that detour be on the north side of Buttles, or will the south side sidewalks be replaced after the utility burial is complete in 25?
I'll be honest, I haven't delved into it that much to see what after. Basically, a lot of this we'll look into once construction's done with the utility companies to make sure we see what they have removed and replaced. Because sometimes, like you said, we anticipate this is how much disturbance we're going to be doing, but until the utility companies come in and start doing that work, we will not know the full extent until they're completed.
Sure.
So.
But those north side sidewalks on Buttles will remain open for now. They won't be touched.
And I think that's the current plan. The official detour would be to the north side. But obviously, if you're local and you can go through the downtown, that roadway network
Absolutely.
down there. And Shaun mentioned, we don't know. We didn't know how much they'd have to remove, even trees, sidewalks. So far,
Correct.
It's been most of everything. So that sidewalk will be gone. And, as opposed to paying to reconstruct it.
Yeah.
And then coming back and doing it again, we're not doing. We're going to.
This is the most efficient way to do it for now. And when we talk about what happens in 2027, it will all make sense. So for now, let's take this in chronological order. We talked about the utility burial taking place here in 2025. In 2026, the focus shifts to Indian Street. It feels like we have talked about this project for a very long time. Lay out what will happen on Indian Street beginning in 2026.
John, do you want to take this over for the design part, the changes?
Yeah, sure. I will, we'll go through, here's some plan sheet view. This isn't our official plan sheets, but it's overlaying over an aerial. This is our actual design here. I'll add that Jerome Street will be reconstructed. That's just north of Main Street up to Indian. That one is, that's up to the discretion of the contractor to a certain extent. Do they want to combine it with the 2026 work and the 2027, or they get it all done the first year? That'll be a part width construction on that. We'll keep traffic through there, but that's the look on Jerome Street there. Not mostly matching the current configuration. One of the changes there is we'll just say that crosswalk that goes from the city offices there to the currently close to the gas station. We'll be bumping that a little bit south. It'll line up more with that park and ride there. The advantage there is you're only crossing 5 lanes as opposed to the turn lane there and an extra lane to cross. A little bit safer. And then I'll head down Indian Street. This is the section I had mentioned that had already been overlain with asphalt. So this section of Indian from Jerome all the way to Haley Street, right there, just at the start of those curves, that will just be mill and resurface. So we'll take out 1.5 inches of the existing asphalt, put 1.5 inches back. That'll essentially stay the same lane configuration. It'll be a lot quicker to construct that portion. There will still be new decorative lighting through this section and all new signals along this section. Once we get up to, I think it's in between, right there's the line right there. Yeah, between Mill and Haley, we then start the full depth reconstruction. It's still an asphalt section through the curve now, but we are upgrading the slope on that, call it a super elevation, just more, how racetracks are designed just to around curves, bringing that up to standard. That'll be part of the full reconstruction. And then we continue to the east all the way down Patrick. Lane configuration stays the same. All the same enhanced features with the lighting and signals there. Now this section, the existing decorative lights will stay that are already there. We'll be plugging them in. Some have been knocked over the years. On around that curve there on Patrick and into Indian, you'll notice a lot of them get knocked down on the outside of the curve.
Yeah.
Those will all be relocated to the inside of the curve.
Very
so
nice.
that people, if anyone goes off the roadway there, they won't hit those lights.
Things we learn along the way, right?
Yes. Yep. And so and then we'll order some new lights that will match that existing style. So that'll all be consistent through here. Now when we head to the east, it's, same thing, reconstruction, same 3 lanes throughout, same work items, all the way just past Washington Street, connecting into the roundabout there will be next year's construction on Indian and Patrick.
Very nice. Huge project. And my understanding is traffic will be shifted to Buttles and Lyons during this construction period. So Buttles and Patrick redone all the way from Jerome to Washington Street, including Jerome to Main Street.
Yes.
From Indian. So huge projects. And I'm assuming this is going to be somewhat phased in. Not everything's going to be shut down and inaccessible during that whole time. And as you said, a lot of that comes down to the contractor that how they approach it. But more than that, life doesn't shut down when all of this happens. This is right in the heart of the downtown area. We have Dow Diamond and the Great Lakes Loons playing all season of baseball. So how is MDOT working to help keep life moving here in Midland during all this construction?
Yeah, I'll go back. I'll show that curve area there. That'll help us talk through it. But we did have, we're currently meeting with the Loon staff and planning for that. Shaun and I had a meeting just that last week, I think. And there'll be a lot of considerations being made still, talking through some of that, what's best to do. Expect some alternate routes into and out of the stadium. I'll encourage people to maybe plan on trying to show up a little bit earlier. It'll be tough, but the reality is, it's tough to build these things, and so there might be some modifications to where even that East Buttles, where Buttles Street continues straight into the parking lot there, and then Loons Drive, we may have to close those off at some point because that'll be two-way traffic there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And certain things we talked about with Loons that they're looking at would prefer to, we would probably implement these things, because talking with them, it makes a lot of sense to keep things safe. And we're still sorting it out, but using, Shaun and I were looking at Jefferson, there would be a signal there, maybe having that be a detour route to get in and out of there. And then we're looking at what we can do on the west of there with George and State Street, because there's the other parking lot over that way.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that a lot of planning your routes into Dow Diamond for the 26 and 27 seasons going to be very important for motorists to kind of keep in mind ahead of time. And I know in the downtown district, we're also working to make sure that all our events are highly publicizing the fact that Buttles and Indian will both be affected over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
We also been working very closely with the city too and their engineering staff to make sure that we try to minimize as much as we feasibly can the impact to all the businesses, not just the Dow Diamond, the Loons, but also all the other businesses within the downtown district. So it is definitely a partnership between MDOT and the city, and just working with the local businesses, trying to make it as painless as possible. We definitely do understand where they're coming from, the burden it does put on them. But we hope at the end, with seeing the improvements we're doing, and since we are reconstructing it, we should not be here doing any major work for many years to come. So it's kind of one of those ones is you rip the Band-Aid off and get it done, or do we kind of just spread this out for many years and just do not full reconstruct? So I think long term, it will be better. Short term will be a little hard for everybody. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
But
It'll be a beautiful outcome when we're all done.
Still go to those games and
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
tough
it's
it out.
a little more
we'll still
planning,
be there.
a little more time maybe getting there and getting parked, and a lot of strategy on where you're going to park.
I like to say, look at it, say like a bathroom renovation at home. It's not much of an inconvenience. It is for the family, but it's more exciting because you're going to get a new bathroom.
Yeah.
Try to think of it that way.
Yeah.
That's what we
All
do
the-
every
all the
day.
good stuff
Most people
coming
hate
out.
us. We're trying to like, well, yeah, but it's making
It'll,
an investment, and think about the finished product.
yeah, absolutely. It'll be a great project when it's all done.
and then we actually are putting in brand new water main through here. So it's not just ripping out the old pavement. We're ripping out the old pavement, the old gravel, sand. We're putting brand new storm sewer. We're putting in new water main through here, new traffic signals. So it is a great investment into the infrastructure through here. So it's an improvement and for long endurance for not only MDOT's infrastructure of the roadway, but also our storm sewer, but also the city's water main work. And also with the utilities being buried underground, that's also an improvement, which is being made possible by working with the city and doing the project as a reconstruct.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Short-term pain for long-term gain. So that works. That's great. So right now we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll finish up with talking about Buttles Street, which will be redesigned in 2027, and all that goes with that. So thank you. We'll be right back. We are back with the Word on the Streets podcast, talking with John Kelley and Shaun Bates from the Michigan Department of Transportation about upcoming construction on the Indian and Buttles corridor. We've talked about the 2025 utility relocation on Buttles. We've talked about the 2026 upcoming project on Indian. Now let's talk 2027 when the focus turns back to Buttles Street, and tell us a little bit about what's planned for Buttles in 2027.
Yeah, I'm going to go back through our drawings again. And one thing I guess I forgot to mention that I think the last time I was on this, I was still saying, I think maybe we were even still planning on a 1-year construction even,
correct.
with keeping one lane of traffic each direction during construction. So I apologize anyone, that this is now a 2-year construction with full detour of traffic to the other bound.
Yeah, that's what we talked about at the top, that plans change.
Yeah, I wanted to clear that up because I tell everyone that, and then a week later everyone changes.
Yeah.
I just went on the podcast and the public meeting and told everyone.
It's always the way it goes.
Yep. So that's the plan, and but I'll continue walking. So this I had mentioned, Jerome full reconstruct that could still be part of the plan depending on how the contractor would like to handle that, factor that into their schedule for 27. You see there, well, there's a change there, that right turn from Jerome Street on to Buttles. You currently turn into 3 lanes of traffic there. With the lane reduction portion on Buttles, I'll talk about next, that'll now be 2 lanes into 2 lanes of traffic. That'll be a little bit nicer as far as sometimes now we have issues with people weaving into the,
Absolutely.
into the other lane, the adjacent lane, I should say. And this is one of the major changes here, starting on Buttles. That's been a big topic, the lane reduction portion. It's 3 to 2 lanes from Jerome to State Street. However, you'll see here, we have 2 lanes coming into it, crossing Jerome. We open up to a 3rd lane for a right turn lane onto Ashman. It also was established there at that entrance into the county building. And then continues 2 lanes to the east down Buttles. Oh, I missed it. We have another right turn lane there at Cronkite Street, which goes over to the Poseyville Bridge. So those were the 2 where the traffic volumes warranted that additional right turn lane, which would be nice because then people can that are turning right will have that designated lane, get out of traffic.
Yeah, kind of decelerate so they can make the turn.
Yep. And then it opens back up to the 3-lane section there, just east of State Street. And this is all full reconstruction. And Shaun mentioned through here, this is where a lot of the water mains being replaced. And we'll touch on a little detail next, but we have a pathway going in there on the south side of Buttles. And all new storm sewer, same new signals. And I don't know if I mentioned they are the mast arm signal poles, so they're not the overhead kind of box span with the line, the strings. And they'll be painted the black coating, which is consistent. The city's doing kind of throughout. Look all up and down Saginaw Street.
Center City corridor.
Yep, Center City. It's a nice look. So that'll be consistent throughout. Same with the lights. I should mention that too. The lights. You look at what's been done on the bridge recently, and then on Main Street. Those same style of lighting there.
Yeah, this is just a main corridor in and out of Midland, so it will really improve the aesthetics and formality of coming through this area.
Yes, definitely. And that's something that's been nice with working with the city and sharing funds and being able to pay for some of these additional enhancements. It has been nice working with the city on this. And so as part of the 2027 construction, we continue to the east. Mind you, all traffic will now be both directions on Indian. And now you kind of see the reason for that phasing can't really change.
Yeah.
Because Indian will stay the 3 lanes. We can do 1 lane each direction with a center left turn lane is what we do. Had we constructed Buttles first, that the sections where it's down to 2 lanes, that wouldn't have worked. So that order will not be able to change.
You really do think this stuff through.
We think, people don't think we do, but we got probably hundreds of dorks like us thinking about this for years and years. So I like to say we get to the best of all the bad options is what we give you, because a lot of times there's not a great one.
Yeah,
but we get to the best.
It's uncomfortable
of the
construction, but we eventually get there.
And then heading down to the east, it remains the 3-lane section, full reconstruction. We are improving. I think it's this curve here that coming up to Carpenter Road. That curve is, I don't know how exciting it is for people to hear, but I guess this is just, we are changing the geometry on that, flattening out that curve a little bit. That was a little bit tight, didn't quite meet criteria. So and there's kind of poor sight distance there too. You drive through there, that signal on Jefferson sneaks up on you. If it's a red light, you'll be able to see that much better. And we'll clear out some trees there that might block that. However, we are adding a lot of new trees along this section. We had a lot of opportunity. I think we didn't mention that either. Although you'll see a lot of tree removals up front. I don't want everyone to panic, because actually in the end we'll be adding more trees than we would be removing. So
very nice.
And some of them are nicer as far as the smaller species that are better. If we got utilities in the area, they're not going to get overgrown or grow into,
Yeah, we've learned a lot about urban street trees over the past 20 years and what grows best and what can withstand all the motoring traffic that comes to that area.
Yeah. And we've worked closely with the City of Midland and Forestry, and they've been picking species and which ones to save, and that one's obviously a lot of them we have to take down for the construction. But so that'll continue. All the way to the east, same. We get back up and we end there back at the roundabout.
Very nice. So let's go back to the beginning of this 2027 project when we talked about the utility burial from 2025. So this Buttles project has a major addition with the 10-foot wide non-motorized pathway being added. So sidewalks will be unavailable for the next 2 years. We'll mostly be using that north side of Buttles. But talk a little bit about why the non-motorized pathways are so prevalent now in today's conversations.
Yeah, we when we kicked off this podcast talking about the more focus on non-motorized or the multimodal traffic, and I know that was a major focus down here as the downtown area becomes more pedestrian, bicyclist friendly. That was that was an important point, and that was a big part of relocating the utilities and then allowing that lane reduction. In addition to that functioning well, and then another thing I'll mention with the lane reduction, it is less long-term maintenance and then long-term repaving of things so there are cost benefits to that as well. But that allowed us to plant those new street trees in a 10-foot non-motorized pathway.
Very nice.
Which will continue up where the existing pathway goes through the median up by State Street by the baseball diamond. That'll extend all the way to Jerome Street. So that'll provide a nice non-motorized pathway right through the core of downtown.
And going to the 2-lane profile, it really kind of calms and slows traffic through this corridor, which I know is very important. There's a lot of developable space in between the one-way pairs, and what we've heard from potential businesses coming in and developing in this space is they're really looking for that calmer traffic pattern. So folks feel safer coming and going from their place of business, and also walking and biking to their location as well. So I think that will be a great add. So there's no doubt that projects like this take a lot of planning and coordination, but the outcomes are really a safer, more attractive, more functional gateway into our community. Any last thoughts on how these projects all come together and what you expect to see in Midland over the next 3 years?
I guess one more now that we have this image up here. This was one of the renderings. It was more early on with the plan. Slight change at that corner there. That'd be the southeastern corner of Ashman and Buttles. We have a dry cleaning place and then the carpet place there. There were a lot of concerns on turning movements. We go from the 3 to 2 lanes. For the most part, a lot of the right turns come on, you have a lot more space to turn because now you have that large radius you see there. But one of the areas of concern was left turns. Large trucks turning left off of Ashman onto Buttles would swing out almost even sometimes into that far curb line. So this image doesn't show it, but the plan is there'll be a little bit wider pavement there, almost a whole width. A third lane worth, so trucks can swing out into that. Then it will taper back into the 2-lane, but that was a concern that's been voiced to public meetings and things. So I wanted to mention that in case anyone was looking at that and wondering that will provide some more space, and all the turning movements are factored in at every intersection, really.
And I think that's a really important point to make, because you did hold several community conversations on, potential designs, where the directions you were going in this redevelopment. And we did learn a lot from the community. And you've mentioned a couple different areas that have been incorporated into the latest designs to address concerns raised by the community. And we're very appreciative of that. So speaking of the community, as we kind of close out the podcast today, where's the best place for folks to go if they want to keep up to date on what's going on with the Indian and Buttles improvement projects?
We encourage people to sign up for our MDOT Bay Region News Release emails, and that gives the emails that we put out there that gives updates on the status of the project. We also will have another open house in the spring, I should say late winter, early spring, right before construction starts. That's open to the public just to kind of show the layout of construction, what we're planning, how we're going to maintain traffic. And then we'll also have the contractor on board. So then we'll know their current schedule, what they plan on doing, what month, what's their goals to have completed by this time. And they will be there to help answer any questions. And then we usually have a sign-up sheet there that then we put that as a stakeholder email, as a separate email to those who sign up for it at those public open houses. And we also have the shareholder emails that go to fire department, police department, the city, and that's kind of an email we send about every 1 to 2 weeks, and that gives any changes of construction, where we're at, when we're going to shift traffic, kind of keeps the local municipalities and the emergency vehicles, responders, schools. We also send it to the superintendents of the schools, so they understand how the progress is going on the projects, what to expect. So it's not they get out there and all of a sudden they can't go through the street because we got tore up. No, that's what we try to work with very closely with our local municipalities.
Yeah. So folks will have opportunities to hear directly from MDOT through this emailing list, which is great. We work very close with MDOT, so we will, of course, update all our City of Midland website information and pass along construction information as that comes along. So we'd like to thank you for joining us today and sharing all this great information. It's going to be a couple years of really good construction, and we look forward to working with MDOT to get that information out to the community. For listeners, you can find more information on the history of this project as well as the visuals that we talked about today on our City of Midland website. You can check that out at cityofmidlandmi.gov/corridors. You can also subscribe to updates for the City of Midland YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform under the MCTV Network Government Affairs. We'll be back again with more updates on the Indian Buttles Corridor improvement projects as they move along, as well as other infrastructure projects going on in the City of Midland. And we look forward to hopefully having you back again to bring us up to speed on these projects and more. So
Thank you for
being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time.
This has been Word on the Streets, a podcast created by the City of Midland, Michigan, and produced by the MCTV Network. For more information on this podcast or to learn more about the Buttles and Indian Corridor Improvement Project, visit cityofmidlandmi.gov/corridors.